So in the state of Tennessee, there are several grounds for divorce. The main two grounds that we use when we file divorces is irreconcilable differences and inappropriate marital conduct. So with irreconcilable differences, it's technically a ground for divorce in the state of Tennessee, but to be divorced on those grounds, you and your spouse have to agree on everything in your case. That could be division of assets and debts, child custody, alimony, even down to court cost. With inappropriate marital conduct, that's a catch-all ground, and that can be anything from someone who has not been financially stable to someone who has cheated on another spouse during the marriage, or someone who's maybe had some substance abuse issues. The advantage to using inappropriate marital conduct as a ground for divorce is if you can't agree on all the issues in your case and reach an agreement on the grounds of irreconcilable differences, it's a good catch-all ground. So it would be anything that your spouse has done during the marriage that you consider to be inappropriate that would entitle you to a divorce. So in the state of Tennessee, assets get divided equitably. That doesn't always mean it's a 50-50 split, but a lot of the times the court will try to get it close to 50-50. So for example, what that could look like, a lot of times most people have a marital residence, and there's three things that we can do with that residence. One spouse can buy the other spouse out, or vice versa. Those would be the first two options, or the third option would be that the house gets sold. And what we're going to try to do if the house gets sold is get the net proceeds divided as equitable as we can. And a lot of times that will be close to a 50-50 division. So say, for example, if you have $500,000 of equity left over once the house is sold, then we're possibly looking at a $250,000 division to each partner. There are times that it's not equitable. It could be if one spouse has dissipated the estate. That could be anything from spending money with somebody they're having an affair with, to financial abuse, or it could be if one party goes out and gambles away a lot of money. That could be considered a dissipation of the marital estate, so the court could look at giving the other spouse a higher percentage of that division. So in Tennessee, there are 4 different kinds of alimony. There's rehabilitative, there's transitional, there's what's called in futuro, that's more like permanent alimony, or there's lump sum alimony. And in the state of Tennessee, if alimony is awarded, the statutes and the case law lean more towards the rehabilitative or transitional type alimony. It's not always a guarantee. The court's going to be looking at each spouse's income and expenses. Those are the main 2 things the court's going to look at is, does one person need alimony, and does the other person have the ability to pay alimony? So rehabilitative alimony is to help someone rehabilitate themselves, for example, so they can go out and get an education and earn money to be able to support themselves. A lot of times we see if one spouse has been supportive of the other spouse in getting their education and career going, then we're going to be looking at taking money and helping that other spouse go back to school, get an education, get some type of training so that they can then go back and earn enough money to support themselves. With transitional alimony, it's just what it says. It's to transition somebody into a new lifestyle. So what we may be looking at there is how long do we think and how much money do we think it would take to transition somebody from being married with, possibly 2 incomes to being single with 1 income. So for custody in the state of Tennessee, well, a lot of times we refer to it now as you get a parenting plan. So each parent's going to have co-parenting time, and then you get what's called major decision-making authority, and that's kind of what we used to call legal custody. But in scheduling that co-parenting time, the court is to maximize each parent's ability to spend time with the children, given other factors. There's a long laundry list of factors, but what the court's really going to be the most concerned with is the best interest of the child. So if you have any questions about division of assets and debts in the state of Tennessee, if you have any questions about co-parenting time, decision-making authority, if you have any questions about alimony, please feel free to give us a call at Mandy Hancock Law.